Has the Austin housing market hit rock bottom? Jeremy with the Group, your favorite Austin realtor. I have a lot to get through to today. There's a lot of information about cancellations. There's a lot of information about inventory. There's a lot of information about CPI rates and what's happening in Austin. The Austin housing numbers for October dropped, and there's a couple bombshells in here that I think we got to get to because it's going to relate to you and whether you're going to be buying right now or selling right now, and what the future of the Austin area looks like, because there's a lot of things happening in this information. So I'm going to talk about the Austin numbers a little bit later in this video, so stay tuned for that, because there are some really, really important things about the Austin numbers. Oh, and by the way, you really, really love my videos where I talk about the areas that are going up and down comes to this number coming out. So drop a comment below. What areas do you want me to talk about next week in next week's video as far as prices going up, prices going down, any of that stuff? Drop comment below. I need to get to this. So right now the CPI numbers came out and they're looking pretty good. In fact, the adjusted rates are under 2%. So the CPI looks good. That is but something that we've been kind of waiting, every month we wait. What's the CPI numbers going to look like? What's Jerome Powell going to say? Well, a week ago, Jerome Powell came out and basically said they're not raising rates. In fact, a couple weeks ago in a video I made, I said it's possible they're going to pause rates right now and then the next go around raise rates. Well, with the numbers in the economy looking the way they're looking and inflation looking where it's looking, they may not increase interest rates through the rest of the year. So what did that immediately do? It dropped interest rates like a rock instantly. So we saw rates drop about 0.64%. In fact, we talked about this in other videos. They immediately dropped with the news that we weren't going to see interest rates rising. Now, there's been a lot of talk. I actually listened to some economists with Bloomberg a week ago, and a couple of them said they may not see rate hikes next year at all. Now, that would be fantastic, but you know what? We never know what's going to happen with Jerome Powell. We never know what's going to happen with, what's going to happen in the economy. And look, next year is an election year, and it's always a funky year in real estate. I didn't use the F word. I said funky. So this is really, really good information, right? And as we look at inventory nationally and how that relates to the housing market, we've been saying for a long time that once interest rates drop, you're going to see buyers back in the pool. We started seeing people go out and apply for mortgages again because mortgage applications went up right after that, even though mortgages had been at 30-year highs. Now, I have an article with Zillow right here, and Zillow was saying that even though there were really, really high rates, year over year, we were up 2.3% overall in just the market in general. So they were saying, at the beginning of the year, what did we say? Zillow said it was going to be up 7%. Redfin said it was going to be up 6%, whatever. But all of that rates that were happening were just crazy interest rates. Actually, the market didn't tank as much as they thought it would. In fact, prices stayed pretty steady. And a lot of that had to do with inventory nationally. But if we look at inventory in the Austin area, inventory has been high, which means that we are going to go into a high amount of inventory next year. So if we look at this chart right here, this just shows you what inventory had been doing. And I kept saying that, hey, inventory drops off the last half of the year for a lot of reasons. I'm actually having a lot of sellers reach out to me right now that are getting their homes on the market right now before the end of the year and the beginning of the year. So I imagine if you're a buyer getting ready to buy, interest rates are coming down, that's really good. I imagine that we're going to see more inventory right now and the beginning of the year, more than we saw last year. Now, if we look at the information that the ABOR put out, yes, they did drop a little bit from last month to this month, about 400 units, and not enough to really make a big dent in it. In fact, if we look at the MSA is at 3.9 months inventory, and Austin is at 4 months inventory. The interesting thing about the Austin numbers, though, I'm going to tell you in a second because it gets pretty wild with the Austin numbers because it does look like they have flattened out. It really does. So how much further they're going to drop? We're going to talk to you about that in a second. But here's what I'm seeing nationally. What had happened is if we were looking at national numbers as far as what was happening with the amount of inventory, we were like, whatever the number was that they put out that on this article was like 35% more needed. Now that number is down to 19%. So we saw a compression of inventory, and a lot of that had to do with a little less buyers in the pool, which if interest rates drop, we'll probably see more buyers in the pool. In fact, Patrick Bet-David said the other day, if interest rates drop, which Patrick Bet-David's been a little bit wrong about the market when it comes to stuff, but he even said if rates drop, you're going to see prices at home go crazy again. So is 2023 going to be that year that you should have bought a home, even though rates were high? That is yet to be seen. As we go through this, though, inventory is going to be an issue. And so since we're seeing a little bit more inventory, as we see more inventory, you as a buyer, you're going to see more inventory and lower interest rates. Here is the other thing that I think you have to be listening to as a seller and as a buyer. So this news came out that 35%. Oh, we're going to talk about cancellations in a second. We're going to talk about cancellations. Don't forget to remind me in the comments, talk about cancellations, because that's really big news too. Okay. But 35% of sellers right now in the market, remember, I just made a video last week about sellers and what sellers are facing. 35% of sellers saw concessions. They gave concessions to buyers. Now, that wasn't dropping the price. In fact, I have a thing right here that shows 35% gave concessions and 14% gave concessions and dropped the price. So that's something to think about as well. Now, in the Austin area, homes are selling still about 94% of list price. So you're seeing a little bit of that. But if you look at a lot of the price drops, we still are seeing like 30% of the price drops nationally, like in our whole market. So going back to this though, if we look at the Austin numbers compared to the national numbers, 43% of sellers in Austin gave concessions. So whether that was money towards down payment, whether it was money towards closing, whether it was money towards repairs, it wasn't just, the price drop. We're talking about whatever the price was, and then they gave an additional concession to the buyer. So almost half, very close to half of our closings were done with concessions. Now, let's talk about something else though. I've had clients tell me, Jeremy, I see a home, but it comes back on the market. Well, nationally, 16% of homes are coming back on the market. So that means a buyer and seller go under contract for whatever reason, either buyer, 8%, I can't do this. I can't make the payment anymore. It's not going to work. I'm backing out. I'm scared, whatever it is. Buyers are backing out 16%. So you would think that in the Austin market with all this inventory that the number would be higher. No, it's 14%. So we are still seeing some of the highest cancellations since September of last year, according to this Redfin chart right here. Yeah, we are still seeing less of those cancellations in Austin, but more concessions. So is it sellers giving more concessions to buyers? So now we have these things. If you're a buyer or a seller looking in the market right now, we've got a good amount of inventory. We're going to see some more inventory next year. Interest rates are dropping and sellers are giving concessions. So if you're a buyer, let's go, hey, look, all right, let's get a really good offer in on a property and maybe get $15,000 in closing costs. This is what people got really mad about. In fact, somebody got really mad in the comment section saying buyers shouldn't be buying if they can't do that. But look, buyers need to be incentivized. I feel like it's like the three bears Goldilocks right now. When we walk into homes with buyers, what they're saying is this house is too small. This house needs too much work. This house is just right. And they're writing a really good offer and they're getting concessions. You as a buyer should really pay attention to that and talk to your agent. If it's us in the Austin market, we're already giving you all the tricks and tips to get even better offers out. So definitely reach out to that for us. So let's talk about the Austin numbers because the Austin numbers are extremely important. So here's what's really great. I put out these numbers and I said earlier that we may see it by the end of the year, the Austin numbers flat year over year. And we are only 1% off of last year's numbers as of right now. We ended October last year at 555 and we ended October this year at 540. That is a 1% difference. Now, if you're looking at this chart that I'm showing you, we are flatlining. Back to August, we were at 541. September down to 536. And now October, we are at 540. We've plateaued. In fact, month over month, we are higher than September. So we saw a month over month increase just in the Austin numbers. So look, and then on top of this, November, the numbers died last year down to 530. So we could see November, if we don't see numbers drop like they did last year, you could see a positive numbers for November year over year. What does that say to you? What are you saying in the comments? Like, man, maybe it is time to buy. Maybe it is time. Maybe Jeremy's been right the whole time. The last half of 2023 is the right time to buy. Maybe you're saying 2024 is going to be the right time to buy. I met Tim Kennedy the other day. I ran into him. Tim, shout out to you for being one of the most amazing humans on the planet. And when I chatted with you the other day, you were absolutely phenomenal to chat to. But I talked to Tim Kennedy and we were talking about the housing market. And if you don't know who Tim Kennedy is, please, at the end of this, go Google Tim Kennedy, amazing human being. But Tim Kennedy said to me, we were talking about real estate. We're talking about investments. We were talking about investments really because that's, I like to talk to really smart people about investments. But he was even saying, he's like, I think the Austin market may come down about another 10%. And I said, Tim, I don't know that it's going to be down another 10%. It could be possibly. But based on the numbers coming out of here, it might not. Now, the MSA numbers tell a different story. The MSA numbers dropped again. And I keep saying this, why the MSA is going to drop, because it's not as insulated as the Austin numbers. The MSA was down 7% at 3.9 months inventory. That's because a lot of our inventory is up in Georgetown. A lot of our inventory is up in Liberty Hill. A lot of our inventory is in Hutto. My wife is headed to Liberty Hill today to go show a client in Liberty Hill, and they are going to negotiate a massive deal with a builder. So we are negotiating crazy deals. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to save 3% by not using a builder. And go, we are getting better deals than the builder is offering, plus you get representation. So look, the Austin market isn't as bad as you thought it was. Yes, there's a lot of layoffs. Yes, there's things coming. But if you are looking to buy, I would say don't be as scared. Get all the facts, get all the information. And if it is time for you to buy, definitely buy it. And if you're getting ready to sell, make sure you're potentially offering a concession. Maybe you're potentially looking at things and maybe working with a good agent that is marketing the hell out of their properties and has a full YouTube channel dedicated to marketing your home, because that's what we have. Jeremy at the Night Group. We'll see you in the next video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Have a great day. And Tim Kennedy, thanks again for being an awesome human being.